Welcome to episode 18 of the Animorphs Read-Along broadcast. Today we are talking about book 16, The Warning. This is a really excellent book. I feel like we've gotten into sort of the golden age of the Animorph books. So this book gets extra nostalgia points for having ridiculous chat rooms and AOL and dial-up modems. So in this book, Jake is using the internet, and on a whim he Googles Yeerk, and he actually finds a Yeerk-related chat room and website that seems to be at least partially full of accurate information. They decide to investigate in order to filter through, are these people our allies? Do we need to help these people, or are they just controllers setting a trap? The first way they do that is by going to the Web Access America headquarters and breaking in and accessing the system so they can find out these people's names and addresses, which is so creepy. When they find out that one of these people in the chat room is the founder of Web Access America, super billionaire guy, they decide that he in particular is worth investigating. I really liked how the Web Access America headquarters was actually far away from where the Animorphs live. They had to take a plane and stuff, because it's getting a little ridiculous how everything related to the Yeerk invasion on Earth just happens to be nearby. I mean, I do get that obviously the place they live is some sort of big Yeerk location, but it just felt realistic for them to have to travel a little bit. So they end up traveling on a plane in Flymorph, and Jake almost dies. This incident sort of plants the seeds for where this book is going to go in terms of character arc. Jake is very, very shaken up, sort of, traumatized, and Cassie is really trying to, be there for him. She thinks that they shouldn't more fly again because Jake's now afraid. They have a really interesting conversation about that ends with Jake saying that because he's the leader, he's not allowed to be afraid. Marco and Rachel and Tobias and Axe don't want me to give them permission to be scared. They want me to help them be brave. Jake's starting to put up a barrier between himself and his friends because of his status as the leader. He's not allowed to show weaknesses. It's his job to pretend like he doesn't have any. So they decide to go look into the billionaire's house, and basically the mission is a huge disaster. Rachel was the first one to go in, and she gets zapped by some sort of force field and knocked out. Axe ends up getting shot and captured, and everything has very quickly gone to shit. There's these few minutes of just total panic where no one knows what to do, and Jake himself says I don't know what to do. This is my favorite part in the book. There's something, I don't know, really satisfying for me about seeing how these relationships are developing and complicating as the books go on. And so Marco and Tobias are totally at each other's throats and taking it out on each other. Cassie's starting to lose it a little bit, and Jake has this moment of weakness where he's I don't know what to do, and Marco says something along the lines of you got us into this mess, get us out of it. And that's so harsh, but at the same time this is who they are now, and Jake is the leader. He doesn't get to be weak. Jake ends up going to acquire a rhinoceros morph because he thinks a rhino could sort of plow through all of the security that this guy has around his house. And it ends up being a pretty lighthearted scene. Rhinos can't see very well, especially in the dark, so he's not really sure where he's going. The other three are directing him, and he's knocking down things, not even realizing it. They end up getting back into the house and finally finding billionaire guy, whose name is just too hard for me to say, which is why I keep saying billionaire guy. And it turns out he is a controller. He is Visser 3's twin Yeerk. So this is the first book, I think, literally in the whole series that doesn't have Visser 3 in it. And I'm oh, right. And then they're but we have Visser 3's twin. So there always has to be some sort of nod to Visser 3. So billionaire guy, he doesn't need a Chondrona to survive. The way he's doing that is by eating other Yeerks. He's basically a cannibal. Cassie's well, how are you getting these Yeerks? And it's by killing people. And so Cassie's furious, and she's this guy needs to die, we can't let him live. But Jake once again has to make a different call. But then there's sort of a turn. He says, well, do you want to do it yourself? And she sort of trails off, your morph would do it better. So Cassie has these ideals, and she thinks this guy deserves to die, but at the same time she doesn't want to get her hands dirty. So in the end, of course, they save Rachel, they save Axe, they leave billionaire guy alive in his house to keep doing what he's doing. Cassie eventually does go talk to the little kid, and Jake sort of talks to her right afterwards, and Jake says, I guess it's hard to fight evil without doing some along the way. Cassie just walked away. I let her go. Not everything can be settled. Not everything can be smoothed over. I love this line because it's just wildly realistic. I love the ending to this book. I think it's perfect. Cassie and I started talking and even laughing. The others came over and we talked about flying. But instead of flying, we stayed there and shoveled the manure out of the barn. The 6 of us shoveled dirty hay, and Marco made dumb jokes, and Axe tried to eat a cow pie, and Rachel moaned about Cassie's pathetic taste in clothing, and we were us again. For now. Such a beautiful ending. I really view the scene as kind of like a healing moment. So those are all my thoughts about Animorphs number 16, The Warning. If you want to keep up with this read along, subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitter, and I will see you on Thursday.